The bright Florida sun hung high over the lush fairways of Mar-a-Lago's exclusive golf course. The air carried the crisp scent of freshly cut grass, the distant hum of waves from Palm Beach's shores adding a serene backdrop. It was the kind of day that made golfers itch to take a swing, and for 17-year-old Ethan Carter, it was the perfect day to make history. Ethan wasn't just any teenager. Growing up in a small town outside Atlanta, he had golf in his blood. His grandfather, a retired club pro, had placed a club in his hands before he could walk. By the time Ethan was 10, he was competing in junior tournaments, and by 17, he had already won multiple state championships. Golf was his passion, his identity, and if he played his cards right, his ticket to the professional circuit. So when the rumor spread that President Donald J. Trump, known for his love of golf, was hosting a private round at Mar-a-Lago, Ethan saw an opportunity he couldn't ignore. He wasn't a political junkie, but he knew enough to recognize that Trump prided himself on his golf game. The man had spent years boasting about his skills, reportedly carrying a low handicap and having won countless club championships at his own courses. But Ethan had a suspicion, one that made his competitive spirit burn. What if I beat the president? He had mused to his best friend, Jordan, the night before. I mean fair and square. No gimmicks. Just a real game. Wouldn't that be a story? Jordan had laughed. Dude, you're crazy. You're not even in the same league as his buddies. He's got billionaire execs, politicians, and I don't know, probably secret agents playing with him. But that didn't deter Ethan. He was young, confident, and had nothing to lose. With the help of a well-connected uncle who happened to be a longtime Mar-a-Lago member, Ethan found himself on the course, standing just a few feet away from one of the most powerful men on the planet. President Trump, dressed in his signature red MAGA hat, white polo, and slacks, was chatting animatedly with his playing partners, a mix of top donors, business moguls, and former sports pros. His presence was larger than life, his voice booming as he talked about his latest round at Bedminster. Ethan took a deep breath, stepped forward, and said, "Mr. President, would you be up for a little challenge?" The small group around Trump fell silent. The president turned, his blue eyes narrowing as he examined the teenage boy standing before him. "A challenge?" Trump echoed, tilting his head. "You a golfer, kid?" "Yes, sir," Ethan said, his voice steady. "And I'd like to play you. One-on-one. A match. 18 holes. If I win, you donate 50 grand to a charity of my choice." A murmur spread through the crowd. Trump smirked, then let out a chuckle. "That's bold. I like bold. But let me tell you something, kid, nobody beats me at golf. I'm a tremendous player, the best. But all right, I like a good game. And if I win?" Ethan hadn't expected Trump to actually accept, so he hesitated before answering. "If you win, I caddy for you for the rest of the week." The crowd erupted into laughter. Trump grinned. "You're on, kid." Ethan nodded, adrenaline pumping. This was it. The chance to prove himself. Not just as a golfer, but as someone who could stand toe-to-toe with one of the biggest personalities in the world. What he didn't know was that this game would change his life forever. With the challenge set, the news spread across the golf course like wildfire. Guests at Mar-a-Lago, caddies, and staff whispered amongst themselves. A teenager challenging the President of the United States to a golf match? It was the kind of spectacle no one wanted to miss. Ethan felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. But he had been in pressure situations before. He had played championship matches in front of large crowds. But this was different. This wasn't just golf. This was a showdown against one of the most powerful men in the world. A man whose confidence was as unshakable as his Twitter feed. As they walked to the first tee, Trump grinned, flashing his signature confidence. "You nervous, kid?" he asked, taking a practice swing with his driver. Ethan shook his head. "No, sir. Just ready to play." The group decided to play a match play format, meaning whoever won the most holes outright would be the victor. They would play from the championship tees, no handicaps, no gimmicks, just a straight-up game. The honor of the first tee shot went to Ethan. He took a deep breath, lined up his drive, and with a smooth, powerful swing, sent the ball soaring down the fairway. It cut through the Florida sky, landing perfectly in the center of the fairway, long and straight, about 290 yards. A murmur of approval ran through the small crowd of onlookers. Even Trump raised his eyebrows. "Not bad. Not bad at all." The president stepped up to the tee, adjusted his grip, and took his swing. His ball veered slightly right but took a generous bounce off the rough, settling into a decent position. He turned and smiled. See that? Lucky bounce. Happens when you're a winner. Ethan grinned but kept his focus. He had a job to do. As they played through the first few holes, Ethan found himself in an unexpected situation. Trump was actually good. Despite all the jokes about his golf game, the president had a solid swing, a sharp short game, and an undeniable presence on the course. He played fast, confident, and above all, he played to win. By the fifth hole, they were even. Ethan had won 2 holes with clutch birdies, but Trump had countered with a few of his own, using his experience and well-placed shots to keep pace. The match was heating up, and Ethan could feel Trump's competitive nature kicking in. Gotta admit, kid, Trump said as they walked to the 6th tee, you're better than I thought, but I never lose. Never. People will tell you best golf game of any president. Some say best in the world. You'll see. Ethan just smiled. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to win. But then something happened on the 7th hole that changed the course of the match and Ethan's perception of the man he was up against. The 7th hole at Mar-a-Lago was a par 5, a long and winding fairway that demanded both power and precision. Ethan knew it was a prime birdie opportunity if he played smart. Standing on the tee, he visualized his shot. He needed a strong drive, one that would set him up for an aggressive second shot toward the green. He took a deep breath, steadied his grip, and swung. Crack! The ball exploded off his driver, soaring high and straight down the fairway. It landed about 310 yards out, rolling to a perfect position. A few of the onlookers nodded in approval, impressed by the young golfer's consistency. Trump, unfazed, stepped up to the tee. He took a practice swing, adjusted his stance, and let it rip. His ball took off, but this time it veered far to the right, way off course, bouncing into the trees that lined the fairway. Ethan expected Trump to shake his head or laugh it off, but instead, the president turned to his caddy and said casually, "Mark that one in the fairway." Ethan blinked. Wait, what? The caddy hesitated for a split second before nodding and noting Trump's ball as being in the fairway. The crowd stayed silent, but Ethan's mind was racing. He knew that ball had gone deep into the trees. There was no way it was in play. As they walked forward, Ethan glanced at the wooded area where Trump's ball had disappeared. Sure enough, a caddy had already jogged ahead and found a ball sitting cleanly in the fairway, a miraculous recovery. Ethan kept his mouth shut. Maybe it was just a lucky break, he thought. On his second shot, Ethan played a bold stroke, a 3-wood that cut through the air, landing just off the green, leaving him an easy chip for eagle. Trump, from his fairway position, took his shot and landed just short of the green. As they reached the putting surface, Trump confidently lined up his putt. "Watch this," he said with a smirk. He struck the ball and it rolled smoothly across the green, right into the cup. "Eagle," the crowd clapped and Trump turned to Ethan. "Told you. The best. I make those all the time." Ethan's competitive fire burned inside him, but he kept his cool. He still had an eagle attempt. If he made it, they'd tie the hole. He took his stance, took a breath, and putted. The ball rolled true, straight toward the hole, before lipping out at the last second. "Unbelievable," Ethan muttered. He tapped in for birdie, conceding the hole to Trump. Now, Trump was 1 up. As they walked to the next tee, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He had played enough golf to recognize when the game was being manipulated. But he wasn't about to give up. If Trump wanted to play games, Ethan would let his clubs do the talking. This match was far from over. Ethan clenched his jaw as they walked to the 8th hole. He had played in high-stakes matches before, but never against someone who bent the rules so effortlessly. Was Trump intentionally shaving strokes, or was this just how powerful people played the game, never accepting a loss, always ensuring they came out on top? The teenager took a deep breath. If he was going to win, he had to be undeniable. No close calls, no reliance on honesty, just pure skill. The next few holes were tense. Ethan played his heart out, making birdies, nailing tricky putts, and sticking his approaches close. But no matter how well he played, Trump always seemed to find a miraculous shot or get the benefit of the doubt from his playing partners. On the 10th hole, Trump hit into a bunker, only for his caddy to discover his ball in the perfect lie just outside of it. On the 12th, he took a questionable mulligan but waved it off with a simple, "We don't count that one." Ethan's frustration grew, but he kept his head down. The match was too close to let emotions get the best of him. By the 15th hole, Trump was still 1 up. If Ethan didn't make a move soon, he'd be walking away as his personal caddy for the week, a thought that made his stomach turn. Then came the 16th hole, a picturesque par 3 over a water hazard. Ethan stepped up first, took his time, and struck a pure iron shot. The ball sailed high, landed softly on the green, and rolled to within 8 feet of the pin. A golden opportunity. Trump stepped up next. His swing was smooth, but the ball took a bad line, landing short and splashing into the water. Ethan exhaled, finally seeing an opening. But before anyone could react, Trump turned and said, "Oh, I hit the wrong club. I'll take another one." Ethan blinked. "What?" The president's caddy immediately teed up another ball, and Trump swung again, this time landing safely on the green. Ethan's hands balled into fists. He knew that wasn't how golf worked. If a regular player hit into the water, they took a penalty stroke, no second chances. But apparently, different rules applied when you were the most powerful man in the country. The frustration boiled inside him, but he said nothing. If he was going to beat Trump, he had to beat him clean. Ethan stepped up for his birdie putt. He focused, calmed his breathing, and stroked the ball. It rolled perfectly until it stopped 1 inch from the hole. A groan escaped from the crowd. Ethan dropped his putter in disbelief. Trump, still grinning, walked up and sank his par putt. "Tough break, kid," he said, patting Ethan on the back. "But that's golf. Sometimes you get the breaks, sometimes you don't." "Me? I always get the breaks." Ethan forced a smile. 2 holes left. He had to win both. And he had a plan. Ethan knew this was it. With just 2 holes left, he needed to play flawlessly and hope that luck didn't intervene again. He had spent his life learning to compete with integrity, but here he was, up against an opponent who bent the game to his will. As they approached the 17th hole, a long par 4, Ethan steadied himself. If he was going to win, he had to take control. He teed up first, unleashing his most powerful drive of the day. The ball rocketed off the face of his club, cutting through the air like a bullet. It bounced and rolled, coming to rest just a short iron away from the green. The small crowd murmured in approval. Trump stepped up, took a smooth swing, and sent his ball slicing into a deep bunker. Ethan waited for the inevitable, somehow, some way, that ball would magically end up in a better spot. Sure enough, as they walked up, one of Trump's aides pointed to a ball sitting cleanly on the fairway. "Right here, sir." Ethan couldn't help himself. He laughed. It was quiet at first, but soon it grew into a chuckle. Trump turned. "Something funny, kid?" Ethan shook his head, smiling. "No, sir. Just enjoying the game." Trump gave him a look but said nothing. Ethan wasn't going to let frustration cloud his focus. He lined up his second shot and hit a perfect iron, landing softly on the green, giving himself a great look at birdie. Trump, playing from his mysteriously improved lie, took his second shot and missed the green. He chipped up and left himself with a tricky 8-footer for par. Ethan calmly sank his birdie putt, finally winning a hole outright. 1 hole left. 18th hole. A beautiful with water guarding the green. Ethan knew he could reach it in 2 if he took a risk. His heart pounded as he teed up. He took a deep breath, focused, and swung with everything he had. The ball launched high, curving perfectly down the fairway, setting him up for an aggressive second shot. Trump stepped up, drove his ball into the rough, and like clockwork, someone found it in a better position. Ethan wasn't even mad anymore. He just smiled. For his second shot, he took out his 3-wood, aimed straight for the pin, and attacked. The ball soared over the water, landed on the green, and rolled to within 15 feet of the hole. An eagle putt. The crowd gasped. Trump played it safe, laying up before chipping onto the green, leaving himself with a 20-foot birdie attempt. This was it. If Ethan made this putt, he would win. No amount of lucky breaks or creative scorekeeping could change that. He crouched, reading the green carefully. The line was subtle but clear. He took a deep breath, let all distractions fade away, and stroked the putt. The ball rolled. Steady. True. And dropped. Eagle. Game over. The crowd erupted in applause. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Trump walked over, clapping slowly. Well, you got me, kid." He extended a hand. Ethan shook it firmly. "Good game, Mr. President." Trump grinned. "I'll tell you what. You played great. But let's just say it was a tie. Looks better in the papers, right?" He winked. Ethan chuckled. He had learned something important today. Winning wasn't just about the score, it was about how you won. Some people played by their own rules. But in the end, skill, persistence, and integrity always shone through. "Fair enough, sir," Ethan said. The next day, a check for $50,000 was sent to Ethan's chosen charity. And though the match's official story was that it ended in a friendly tie, everyone who was there knew the truth. Ethan had won, and he didn't need anyone to rewrite history to prove it.